Hello and welcome to World Insight on CGTN. I'm Tian Wei in the Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur. Today we present a special program, The Power of Ideas, a China-ASEAN Dialogue. As close neighbors and good friends, relations between China and ASEAN have brought about tangible benefits for people in the region. But in turbulent times of rising trade barriers and deglobalization, how could China and ASEAN buckle down to cooperation and mutual benefit to keep regional peace and stability, to take a multilateral approach toward global development? And how can the wisdom of the East help fix global challenges today? On that and more, I invited a few people in the know for their insights. But first, these messages from the thought leaders.
As the region is on the threshold of embarking on sustainable development, the China-initiated Global Development Initiative, or GDI, makes a perfect vehicle to foster a new dimension of ASEAN-China cooperation in sustainable development. Initiatives implemented under the GDI framework are presumably more receptive to the host countries which might be caught in the entanglement of Sino-US geopolitical competition. In the present context, Beijing is well equipped with sufficient means and platforms to render the China-ASEAN partnership time-resilient and relevant. The Belt and Road Initiative set the stage for reshaping the regional logistical connectivity and enhancing the economic integration through infrastructure development. Yet, the endeavor is not solely economics-driven. Alongside the three global initiatives successively rolled out later, the BRI is proven a strategic tool for spearheading the ideal of building a community with shared future, which is way above a mere tool for geopolitical diplomacy. Its enabler's role, manifested in the Prosper Thai Humanity outlook, far exceeds the inclusivity that Prosper Thai neighbor could ever entail. As the China-ASEAN bilateral trade figures are all set to breach the $1 trillion mark very soon, alongside a rising tide of Track 2 diplomacy in the region, the partnership of a community with a shared future remains a good avenue for continuous building of mutual trust, which is crucial to the enduring multi-dimensional collaboration between China and ASEAN amid the changing geopolitical dynamics.
China development accelerated by leaps and bounds under the leadership of President Xi Jinping. The country embarked on a journey that has not only transformed the nation, but has sent ripples across the world. Firstly, the nation saw the lifting of poverty of over 800 million people, what is arguably the greatest human success story of our time. China today is a global leader in 5G, facial recognition, and cutting-edge technology. In space, it's not catching up, it's leading. In digital economy, China successfully established a cashless, seamless society. Chinese tech giants, Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance, all are now household names across the globe. Mobile payments have turned China into a near cashless society. The Rural Revitalization Program now uplifts fiercely underserved communities. China also pledged to peak carbon by 2030 and become a carbon neutral by 2060. With major investment in renewable and afforestation, it leads in green economy. In global diplomacy, China is redefining world order. With the Belt and Road Initiative, China has connected over 150 countries through infrastructure and trade. Through initiatives like the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative, China is championing alternative global norms. Indeed, China's version of a global innovative leadership by 2035 and the goals toward a full national regeneration by 2049, the century of the People's Republic of China, appears to be achievable. China is not just a rising, it is redefining the very architecture of global power. As Asian, one is of course proud of China's remarkable achievement.
Why China, Malaysia, and ASEAN relations are matter? Because we share a long history of trade, cultural exchange, and mutual growth. And over the past decades, our relationship has evolved from diplomatic ties to deep-rooted economic partnerships. And milestone in regional cooperations, the China-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, launched in 2010, has significantly enhanced the trade flows, making ASEAN China's largest trading partner. I have to emphasize, the largest trading partner. And high level of mutual complementary ASEAN nations provide the natural resources, labor, and consumer markets that China's industrial and technological capabilities can complement. And this is very important. The synergy drive economic expansion on both sides, not just one side, both sides. The regional growth and global impact for this collaboration is not just beneficial for ASEAN and China, but for the whole world, whole global economy. As we strengthen trade networks, we therefore reinforce the region's resilience and influence in global supply chains. Despite global uncertainties, China's strong domestic market, innovation-driven growth, and commitment to regional integration indicate that its economic momentum will persist, and we believe that, ensuring a prosperous future for ASEAN and China.
For a long time, modernization was seen as synonymous with Westernization. In many regions, especially former colonies of the Western power, it was widely assumed that the only viable path to development was to adopt Western model. However, Chinese modernization has fundamentally challenged and redefined this conventional notion. China has pioneered a unique development path that is rooted in its 5,000-year-old civilization, shaped by its unique national conditions and rich historical heritage, as well as pressing development needs. This distinctive approach does not solely focus on economic growth. It also emphasizes social equity, ecological sustainability, and cultural continuity. In doing so, it offers valuable inspiration to other developing countries seeking their own path forward. Unlike models that benefit only a privileged few, Chinese-style modernization is about lifting the well-being of the entire population. Central to this vision is the goal of common prosperity, with rural revitalization serving as a key strategy. Without addressing urban-rural inequality, common prosperity remains a distant dream. Recently, I had the opportunity to attend the Nujiang International Forum on Poverty Governance and witness firsthand the transformative impact of this policy in one of China's most disadvantaged counties. These stories are living proof that the people, as the foundation of the state, is not just a slogan, but a living philosophy embedded in policy and practices. In a world facing geopolitical instability, climate crisis, and rising inequality, China's development path provides not only a source of hope for its own people, but also a meaningful alternative to the dominant Western paradigm. It opens the door to new thinking, new collaboration, and new possibility for inclusive, sustainable global development. As Thomas Friedman wrote in a recent New York op-ed on April 2nd, I saw the future. It was not in America. This is what he said. And I said, indeed, the future of the world may well be unfolding in China.
Chinese President Xi Jinping is going to make several state visits to the neighboring countries of China, and that certainly includes Malaysia. What are the issues you are looking at specifically for his state visit to Malaysia and also to ASEAN countries? Mr. Dato?
To me, it has three dimensions. One, on the bilateral, I think it will be another boost for relations to take off after our 50 years of relation. The 50 years has been a great achievement. We had a very great celebration in both countries, and now I think we are looking beyond 50. So his visit will set the tone for the next 50. Secondly, on the context of regional cooperation, Malaysia is the chairmanship of ASEAN. This will give actually support to ASEAN cooperation. Thirdly, as you mentioned, the world today is in turmoil, I think so chaotic. So I think the visit could give opportunity to both the leaders to exchange views and how to view and also to see, to bring about harmony and more stability, as many of President Xi's own initiative include that type of element. Yeah.
The world is so chaotic. That adjective, I really got it. And there is more searching for certainty, for predictability, for cooperation. Now, Mr. Ong, what do you think will be on the agenda that so much to your interest, and also everyone sitting here? We've got a lot of young people sitting here.
Certainly, I think we are hopeful now for some guidance from President Xi himself, particularly in face of the current turmoil induced by what I call the Trump's tariff, or in short, the Trump tariff turmoil. And this has been disturbing. And I think all eyes are now on China, certainly. And on the other hand, in the interest of ASEAN, we are hopeful to see perhaps another round of escalation of our relations in all dimensions, namely in economics, alongside politics, and perhaps in this context, we should also deep dive into the possibility of building a community of shared future between China and ASEAN. So far, to my understanding, there are 8 out of 10 ASEAN member states have endorsed a partnership of a community with shared future with China, leaving behind 2. And of course, it's a matter of time. The other 2, as I said earlier, when they are getting more ready, they can join in later. But at this juncture, perhaps, it's good for us to explore the possibility of fostering such a partnership, which is very timely.
Well, talking about a community of shared future, we understand right before Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to the neighboring countries, there was a working conference in China. It is focusing on building community of shared future with neighboring countries and to upgrade the neighborhood work. Now, there was earlier already a community of shared future idea and philosophy coming from the Chinese leadership, but now it seems that it has been particularly emphasized in terms of neighborhood. So, Mr. Koh, what is your interpretation of that? How is that likely to translate into real conversation, into real cooperation this time during his state visit to Malaysia?
Yes, I think the ASEAN, of course, is a very close neighbor. ASEAN countries are very close neighbor of China, and we have very long historical relation, and we are close in terms of economic, and as well as people-to-people's bond. You know, of late we have waived the visa requirements, and now a lot of people may not know there's a huge number of Chinese students studying in Malaysia, about 60,000. Yeah. And then in Malaysia, we have this Malaysia, my second home. The Chinese are the largest holders, you know, my dear giant. So people-to-people bond is the foundation of country-to-country relation.
These days, what do you think, China-ASEAN business and trade relationship as an important component of the global trade? What could they mean to all of us today?
As it is, I would take it as a model of a stabilizer in stabilizing the global trading system, which is now being haunted, I use the word haunted, increasingly by tariff, for instance, and rising protectionism. That is worrisome. And also at the same time, I could see the dysfunctionality of WTO in recent years. Because in the past, of course, we had been pinning high hope on WTO in so-called the rules-based trading system to keep watch on it. But unfortunately, it is now in tatters. I think this is something that we need to put it back on track if at all we want to have a good global governance.
Mr. Dato, recently we understand that the economic ministers of ASEAN economies gathered together because they believe the power of concerted voice. How do you think the current environment is likely to help ASEAN economies to think more clearly about what kind of future it wants and how they can create a better environment for businesses?
Actually, for a long time, both ASEAN and the world actually work out very successfully with this multilateral platform called, as Mr. Ong mentioned, WTO. That's where countries resolve differences, especially trade differences regarding tariff. Because tariff issue among nations is not new. It's gone even in centuries, So we have a very wonderful
hopefully
system.
we are not repeating all the mistakes.
Yes.
That's the thing.
So, so there was this, of course, WTO is not totally perfect. There are some weaknesses, But for Mr. Trump to actually announce this unilateral thing, it actually really undermined the confidence the global community has on trade, on trading rules, how we should solve differences. So from that, I think your question, how should ASEAN respond to this, But I think as you can see from the minister's statement, I think as a basis, we should not panic because ASEAN also have gone through this crisis in 1997, 98, the financial crisis. So I think we also have a very, a composed response, and then we did better. So hopefully in this, of course, this tariff war is much more serious. But I think given this, and I think in a way also, China has taken this position, but China has one legitimate right, because since China has been punched, so maybe China has a right to punch back. So maybe you can look in that context, But I think overall, still, I think the world needs cooperation. Yeah. There are this current difficulty, maybe caused by one personality or group idea, but I think that's why I think ASEAN and China could, in a few weeks, come up with a solution, because we already have a very strong cooperative framework. We have worked over 30, 40 years.
Yes.
And I think with that cooperation and with China, concerted effort and influence, because China produced 1/3 of the global GDP. And that China has, several trillion of reserves. So huge. And also, if you combine China plus Japan and also, South Korea, and they have the highest number of foreign reserves, which all can be utilized to overcome these difficulties.
Right. Yeah. Stabilizing effect is very important these days.
And I think China can play this role, as Mr. Wong mentioned.
Having said that, though, if you look at what is going on today in Asia, particularly between China and ASEAN, there's already very well-established mechanisms. For example, with the China-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, there is also RCEP. To you, Mr. Koh, I want to ask whether these mechanisms will serve their purpose, particularly now.
I think both sides can learn from each other, can benefit from each other, and then economically, there's high complementarity between the two parties. So, yes, I think this mechanism works well and will continue to work well.
What about for you, Mr. Tan?
I think it will work better from now onwards. And especially ASEAN, maybe I speak from my Malaysian sides. I think we Malaysians...
And rightly so.
Yes. I think we will really focus on this RCEP and all these whatever free trade policies. And we would, Malaysian businesses would now understand more about what happened in US and China. And we would basically, the new tariff problem force Malaysian businesses towards align to China, because predictable and we like the way they do things with us. Everything discussed first. We don't impose whatever value which people don't like, and you just impose too. We like China negotiation side, and we would prefer to work with China, and we welcome China to help us.
Mr. Dato, your thoughts?
Well, I think as
you know
mentioned,
some of the mechanisms.
Yes, I know.
You, when you are working as ambassador, I'm sure you're already preparing the ways for these mechanisms to be eventually come true.
Yeah, in fact, it's one of our responsibility to put the structure. I think of course the relationship now has actually extended to 30 years. To me, I think the present structures has served its purpose, but I think we need to upgrade. Perhaps maybe we need to upgrade the level of the leadership. Perhaps now some of the committees are headed by a deputy minister. Maybe it's high time to elevate to minister or deputy prime minister, where fast decision could be made. Because as you mentioned, though they have this mechanism, but I think the result has been in some senses very slow. And one of the reasons could be this bureaucratic indecision. And this can be overcome by each side having higher political representation. I think one should look at that. And secondly, also, the world has evolved. China itself also has changed. So I think China now is in a position of actually reach, production at the level that I think no other country can match, because you have reached, the technological efficiency. You can produce goods high quality but at a lower price. So it is something that could be harmonized with ASEAN. I think ASEAN needs actually that type of gap to bring a stronger GDP growth for ASEAN. That's where China can play the role.
China, for example, Mr. Ong, through Belt and Road Initiative and also through other mechanisms, has been working with ASEAN economies on the green industry. How are these being put into consideration? Because these are equally important. Mr. Ong.
Yeah, under the framework of BRI, the green shift, so to speak, the green shift in the second phase of BRI implementation. Now, to many of us in Southeast Asia, it is a new turf, relatively new turf. And Malaysia, I don't mind saying that we are still a new kid on the block, right? And certainly we aspire to be not just a mere customer or a consumer. We want to be part of it, right? In our innovation one day, perhaps, that we can learn from China. We can foster technology partnership with China, for instance. And having said that, I would like to respond just very briefly to your earlier questions. Malaysia-China trade relations. And when we talk about, say, the free trade agreement and the RCEP, I'm not going to deep dive into it. We are not short of toolkits to promote further our bilateral trade. But the downside is, many a time, we don't seem to synchronize all these toolkits. For instance, like RCEP,
Great
RCEP, and the CAFTA. I still need
China-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement.
The free trade
How
area.
they will integrate with one another.
Yes, because that would create what we call the spaghetti bowl, the spaghetti bowls effect. That means to say you still need to synchronize it, right? In order to, you synchronize and synergize it before it could maximize the impact. And this is something that I hope China and ASEAN will be doing very soon.
For green technology and the integration.
I think the whole world, all the leaders are talking about green technology, and we want to preserve the environment, except one person, President Donald Trump. He doesn't believe in that, and he started the coal policy and all kind of policies which they withdraw from the United Nations. So, but we must understand, without the green technology, what happened 50 years from now, 100 years from now, the weather will be very hot and the environment will be polluted. That's why I say China has taken the lead and very successfully. With green technology, I think China can help us, especially like China, like Malaysia and some other ASEAN countries. China can use your technology, can use your experience, expertise to help all these ASEAN countries to go green. How to go green, and maybe help us first set up the station, the charger station for the green technology. And China has the technology expertise, and you have the financial resources to help us. And that's what businessmen like that.
I can see your point is very straightforward. Having said that, though, we are already see some very successful examples with transportation. If I could come back to you, Mr. Ong.
Yep.
Because earlier I visited the office of the Minister of Transportation.
Anthony.
Yes, I look at the trains, you know, which can run more than 150 kilometers an hour now. Yeah. And also the East Coast Rail Link, which is linking so many towns, cities in Malaysia. Think about the children that are going to university. You can travel on the train.
Yes.
Think about the mom and pop shops that can have better business. And think about the businesses that are willing to move along that trade line, and also many other transportation places, connectivity places. These are just one of those many examples. China and Malaysia are working together. If I understand right, it was a Chinese contractor that are working on the building of this, despite the very complex geographic locations of Malaysia. So tell us more, as a former Minister of Transportation, how will these good examples be learned widely by the public and also become inspiration for our businesses, for our societies?
In the first place,
You know, I'm not here just to talk about positive things, because we are hearing too many negative things these days. We really need some shining example, good examples to enlighten our future. So, Mr. Ong, please.
in the first place, ECRL, or East Coast Rail Link, was a long hedge issue.
Tell me about that.
Long hedge project years before the inception of BRI. I still can remember that. Even before I came to assume the minister's post in MOT, Ministry of Transport. Unfortunately, due to the financial constraints, we had to hold it back, right? And it was until we managed to convince the Chinese side to enter into the picture, right? Through the arrangement of loans to finance the project, Exim Bank and the like, right? Now, just very quickly, the project was designed to balance the disparity, the economic disparity between the developed west coast of Peninsular Malaysia and the economic backwaters. I use the word economic backwaters in the East Coast states. And just now you had rightly pointed out that Now, this project actually is not just to facilitate the connectivity, the logistical connectivity, but also at the same time, we could see along the road, right, all the way from East Coast to Serenda to Klang, right, this part of West Coast. Now, we could see the mushrooming of many small towns.
Indeed.
Right.
Amazing.
And economics, of course, again, economics is a key factor, the driving factor, right? Bringing prosperity to all these small towns. And I believe that would reshape the well-being, the livelihood of the people in the so-called economic backwaters in those days.
You know, what we are talking about today, whether it's economic, trade, or transportation, reminds me of the popular thoughts of South-South cooperation. China, Malaysia, China and ASEAN economies are of, quote-unquote, the global South. We see these kind of cooperation inspiringly taking place these days. How will that be able to enable these economies to be more confident about themselves, to be able to stand firm amid turbulences today, to have a strong core, not be swayed away by the issues of the day. As we are looking for stability, we're also building stability ourselves. So I'm very curious about that, your thoughts.
Well, I'm not trying to praise China, but China play a key role. The South countries look up to China because of the size of its economy, because China is sharing. When it become a second most powerful economy in the world, so it shares its market, its technology, its finance with the world. So that is very important. In a world that is now, I don't want to use that word, but the leaders of the U.S. tend to weaponize, politicize, everything to further its geopolitical interest. China is not. China is a country that treasures peace. China's rise is peaceful rise. It is sharing its market, its technology with South countries. So it helps a lot. So we are talking about how does these South countries can develop their economy. So we have to work closer together through BRI, to a lot of other things. Yeah. So I think that's a way forward.
As we talk, this year is the 70th anniversary of the Bandung Conference. I don't know whether many of our university students sitting here understand that. It's 70 years, quite a long time ago. But at that time, many countries in Asia just experienced their decolonization. They became independent, including the country we are in today. And they are trying to seek confidence, strength. And they realized only by working together, they could obtain that. Individually, divide and conquer, they're going to be the weaker party. Collectively, though, it's going to be a different story. So 70 years ago, they made a choice to have a conference called Bandung Conference and have the Bandung spirit, which is for peace, cooperation, alliance movement. So all of these sounds like ancient political words to all of you, I know, but think about it. It takes a lot of wisdom and courage to do so. Now, in retrospect, Mr. Dato, especially when we are facing with quite a complex picture right now, think about how they did it 70 years ago and what it could mean to all of us today. Mr. Dato.
Well, I think we should revisit the spirit of Bandung. Because when it was first formed, it was actually...
Not only revisit, but refresh.
Yes, I'm trying to add to that.
Update.
Yeah, because at that time, it was more targeted towards political freedom. Country wanted, to have freedom from the colonial masters. As you say, you must get together. to actually demand that, and it happened. But now I think we have reached a new stage that now, after independence, developing countries want to have economic content, want to have comfort for its people. And for a long time, this country were looking for it, but they're not getting it. Though there was some dialogue with the North, but did not happen. Then I think we saw the emergence of China with all the economic success, and China has a tool towards, economic prosperity, trade, technology, and that's why actually it's a natural cover both for South Global South to work with China, and China can give the inspiration, and that is where, as you say, we could uplift the spirit of the Bandung in this new context, where it is for prosperity and also to actually again defend our interests, but this time economic interests, that we should not be bullied as what we went through 70 years ago. So I think it's good that both China and the Global South got actually now a common perception that this engine should be further strengthened, and I'm happy to see that China is playing a big role in the promotion of Global South and cooperation.
And so is Malaysia. The Prime Minister of Malaysia, Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, has been a strong leader within the region and beyond, especially this time ASEAN chairmanship, rotating chairman, is in the hands of Malaysia, and we see a lot of coordination going on among ASEAN economies. So great job over there as well, coming from a humble soul. And what about for you, Mr. Ong, before we wrap it up?
Well, in retrospect, way back in 1955, that is 70 years ago, at the height of Cold War, Bandung Conference was being held under a lot of constraints then, particularly now when the new developing countries were then in their pursuit of not just a sovereignty independence, but more importantly, they need to unshackle themselves from the stranglehold of economics by the ex-colonial masters.
And now we have opened our floor. We are opening our floor now to voices coming from the young people, great students, rising talents in this country here in Malaysia. So this lady, please.
As China deepens its Belt and Road partnerships, how does it plan to balance its infrastructure investment with concern about debt sustainability in Asian countries?
Did you get?
Well,
yep. Okay, that's a long question, very sophisticated one.
Quite encompassing. Well, I tried to answer your question. Thank you for your question anyway. Well, in fact, to my understanding, BRI, Belt Road Initiative, is not just an endeavor of logistical connectivity or infrastructure connectivity. That means to say that goes beyond infrastructure. But since you mentioned about the word connectivity, then I zero in on connectivity per se, right? And connectivity, for instance, like what we have in Southeast Asia. We don't talk about Latin America or other parts of the world, but connectivity projects in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN. Now, definitely, there will be two projects coming to our mind, naturally. Firstly, of course, the landmark project of China-Laos Railway, linking now Yunnan province, linking Kunming in Yunnan province to Vientiane of Laos. And so far, I think now this particular project has reshaped the logistical connectivity, logistical landscape in peninsular ASEAN, right, on one hand. And on the other hand, it has enhanced the economic competitiveness of Laos. Because Laos, we know that it was a landlocked country, right? Now, without any ports or whatsoever. But now that with this China-Laos railway, it is transforming fast into a land-linked country, from landlocked to land-linked, meaning now such a progress would certainly enhance further the competitiveness, economic competitiveness of Laos. Right, this is number one. And in addition to that, of course, the Bandung, Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail. Of course, a lot of Malaysians, they are enviable of their counterparts in Indonesia, particularly in Jakarta. And having said that, I think Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail actually is the first ever high-speed rail in the entire Southeast Asia.
A great discussion, isn't it? With that, we're coming to the end of this special program of World Insight here from the Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur. I'm Tian Wei. On behalf of my teams here in Kuala Lumpur and in Beijing, thanks for being with us. I'll see you tomorrow.
Sayang sayang, 亲爱的朋友, rakan sejati, kasih setinggi gunung, senyuman mesramu dalam hatiku, bagai alir sungai tak ada hujung. 有时候我会孤单，可是我不会寂寞，因为知道有人会永远陪着我。偶尔我也会彷徨，可是我不会慌张，因为你在不远处守护我。不管路有多难，风浪多汹涌，我们一起度过，一起走。 不管你离开多远，我的好朋友，人在千里，情在心里。我喜欢看见开心的笑容绽放在你的脸上，一起漫步沙滩上，感受马来西亚热带的风光。 让这份友情像海浪般滔滔，水长流到永远。亲爱的朋友，有你陪着我真好。亲爱的朋友，rakan sejati, kasih setinggi gunung, senyuman mesra dalam hatiku. Bagai alis